A cannabis union drive stalls as company attempts to set a national legal precedent, you guys. That's right. It's been more than 7 months since employees of St. Louis-based Beleaf Medical Cannabis Company held an election to unionize. The majority of the ballots, 11 of the 16, have remained closed, you guys. In a quote, they say, "It's been quite a while," said Will Bradham, a post-harvest technician at the company. Since the facility in St. Louis, he says, "We're just like, what is happening? Why is this happening? And we're just kind of in the dark waiting," he says. The reasons behind the delay is likely that Bradham and his fellow post-harvest team members exist in a gray area in national labor law, which could change if their union drive is successful. Not long after Bradham and other employees filed their union petition last September, the company argued before the National Labor Relations Board that the employees aren't manufacturer workers. They are agricultural workers, they state. And agricultural workers do not have the right to unionize under the country's labor laws. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. But Bradham and his fellow employees, along with the regional director of the NLRB, believe they're more like workers at tobacco processing plants who courts repeatedly have found aren't agricultural workers, you guys. This is going to get interesting. In a quote, "I've never touched a living plant at work," Bradham said, who was organizing with the United Food and Commercial Workers Union International Local 655, you guys. The company has taken this flight all the way up to the National 5-member board, asking them to set a national precedent on whether employees who process the dried marijuana plants have the right to unionize, you guys. Well, and that is likely why it's taken so long for the regional director of the NLRB, who twice sided with employees to open the ballots, said that St. Louis labor attorney George Scruggs, you guys. If this is a unique situation, there's no reason for the regional director to get out front by opening those ballots, they say. Or Scruggs says. And ultimately, the board will resolve it, Scruggs also says. So we shall see, and we're going to stay tuned and eat this popcorn. But that doesn't mean that the fight would be over, Scruggs said. If the national board sides with the employees, then the company will likely refuse to bargain in order to land the decision in a federal court. In a quote, "Employers have this ability to string out the results of a campaign, especially among businesses where there's lots of employee turnover," Suggs said. By the time there's a resolution a couple years down the road, he said, union support has eroded. And in quotes, he says, "That's the tactic," Scruggs says. "That's what employers have been doing over the 40-plus years that I've been practicing labor law. Over the 7 months of waiting, employees have noticed changes in their job descriptions that likely improve the company's position in the case." In a quote, "It just seems like they're trying to push our jobs more and more in the direction of quote-unquote farmers," said Ahmed Jiggy. Haynes, a post-harvest technician at Beleaf Medical since the facility, he said the company has hired temp workers to do the manufacturing work, including packaging, that he and other of the union members were doing before. The company began hiring temps right after the employees filed a petition to form a union in September of 2023, and according to recordings of a recent staff meeting held by a company human resources representative and obtained by the Independent, at that meeting, the HR representative said Beleaf has burned through 150 temporary employees since October. He told the temps they shouldn't expect to be hired on full-time anytime soon, but they should still feel part of the team. Twice so far this year, NLRB Regional Director Andrea Wykes, who also oversees swath of 6 states in the Midwest, has ruled that post-harvest employees work similar to that of employees in tobacco processing plants. And removing the veins from tobacco leaves and fermenting the leaves has been held to be outside of the definition of agriculture under federal labor law, Wykes wrote back in a June 25th ruling. The company's response to her decision indicates that union employees likely have a long fight ahead of them, And according to a February 13th letter from B-Leaf's attorney to Wilkes, the company plans on fighting their employees' unionizing efforts all the way to federal court. In a quote, although we understand and respect the board's recent decision on this issue, we are preserving this issue for presentation to the United States Court of Appeals for the Eighth Circuit, the letter states. The company can get into court by refusing to bargain with the union, creating a technical violation, Suggs said. And that will lead to a filing of a petition for a review in federal court, Suggs said, so they can challenge the underlying issue in the case, whether these are agricultural workers, in front of a bunch of federal judges, they say. In another quote, that's become a bigger problem, particularly in the Eighth Court, Suggs says, because you've got a number of very conservative judges who are kind of hostile to the labor movement in general. Sean Shannon, lead organizer with the UFCW Local 655, said it's obvious this has been the company's plan all along. Excuse me. In a quote, they said, they clearly stated their intention to bring this as far as to the Eighth Circuit Court, which is several steps into the fight. In their original statement, Shannon said the company's February notice, it says, we roll that down a little, says, I feel... Thank you. From the company's February 1st letter says, I feel nothing but clear intent to obstruct this union at all costs, which ironically proves just how much these folks need a union. Man, oh man, you guys, there is shit going down out here in the great state of Missouri. They're trying to union bust these guys. And I'm not sure. Should these people actually be union workers? I'm not sure. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, I'm a pain in the ass, so I Googled it. Google Esquire over here. Mm-hmm. The IRS defines agricultural workers as agricultural labor. Someone that provides agricultural labor includes all services performed on a farm in the employ of any person in connection with cultivating the soil or in connection with raising or harvesting any agriculture or horticultural commodity. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like that harvest team going to lump in.
I don't know. They're making the argument. They're saying they're tobacco workers and agricultural workers, though. And they're saying that they're similar.
I mean,
I can't wait for Dale. Dale's going to just piss up a rope right now.
Yeah, there's clearly a strategy on the part of the employers, and they've funded it to poke every hole they can in this. And in California, at least, we have the initial processing done at the farm. It's part of what you're allowed to do. You can dry, you can trim. And in the tobacco industry, it's taken from the farms now to a processing center. Okay, so there may be a distinction there. But I can tell you within the cannabis movement that I've worked in, I get kind of torn because my grandpa was a Teamster and I like organized labor. It helps to get the workers things that they wouldn't ordinarily get. But my other grandfather owned a small business. And when labor turns out to be the tail wagging your dog, it's real difficult to run a company. So they do split hairs here, and I'm not going to make a bet on how this is going to come down because I don't know all the intricacies of Missouri law. But if this is going on any place close to where they're harvesting out of the fields, I think they got an uphill battle here. Mm-hmm. It's taken to a processing center. Now I think there's a clear distinction between you're on the farm trimming and drying, or you're in a processing center where the farm's a long ways away, and these people show up and they're not in the fields harvesting anything. They're handling a job like you would have. You went in and put widgets in a package.
Mm-hmm. 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 What do you think about this, Rachelle?
I mean, it seems kind of like something that's been going on a lot in cannabis around the country, right? Is like these people want to unionize. They want to be treated fairly like in any other industry. Aren't they voting on something in Oregon where basically they'll have to be given the option to unionize if they want to?
That may be, but these guys are out in the great state of Missouri. Correct.
Yeah, but I just wonder, like, if that were to, I mean, I guess that's like a vote, like a ballot initiative, but I'm just wondering if that will carry any weight, folks in the rest of the country working in pot.
Yes, they are. UFCW Local 555 is trying to put a ballot initiative together in Oregon to help them unionize if they would like to. It failed last year, but they're pushing it again this year.
You think people are really going to vote for that?
I don't know. I mean, I think it would be nice if people could just get paid fucking fairly.
I have no problem with people getting paid fairly. I'm not opposed to that, but I don't think.
Well, we watch operators time and time again intentionally, and this is actually a tax crime as well, intentionally categorizing an employee as 1099 to avoid paying things like employment taxes on them and avoid giving them the rights that they should be getting. But if you make somebody wear a uniform, if you give them a company email, if you tell them when to be at their job, where to be at their job, how to do said job, that is an employee, ladies and gentlemen. That is not a 1099 independent contractor. I am independent. You don't tell me how to do shit or when to do it. I'll get to it and I'll let you know when it's done.
Thanks, Beyonce.
I do it quickly. Oh, that was nice. But, I think that we need to do better as employers because it's ridiculous. And the wage theft that is happening over and over and over again, when you're looking at employment and your EDD taxes, not paying those is different. That's like a trust violation. That's also a felony because you're supposed to be the person that transfers this money that belongs to the employee over to whatever the bureau is.
Nick,
it's interesting.
Nick brings up an interesting point in the chat. He says, are you going to vote for something that makes your weed more expensive? I mean, it's true. It's true.
It is.
Everything's going to be more expensive.
This sucks. This is the greed of ownership levels. This is the greed that we're seeing that makes your weed more expensive. It's not the taxes. It's the greed of the people who are taking their cut out first.
The taxes are
Last time I checked. Last time I checked, you got paid last when you own the company. You take care of all your employees. You're supposed to take care of all the responsibilities of the business. And then that's your profit.
Mm-hmm. Except for apparently, if you're in a cannabis company and, you got Leaf Link and Dama. They're just going to take your money first.
Well, we have a big split in our country over unions versus right to work states, and that's not going away tomorrow. And these federal appellate courts, depending on where they're located, are more sympathetic to unions or more sympathetic to right to work. And I don't know that this has an answer yet, because this is not like a well-entrenched industry, like Starbucks was, where they've been up and buying coffee forever. They don't have the problems we have. The unionization there had a lot more backing to it in the courts. This is still a tricky one, and nobody in this industry is really making the kind of money that they would just invite them in. Come on, we're going to give you a seat on the board so that labor's represented. That's not happening soon. They're going to fight this tooth and nail.
Totally agree, Dale. Totally agree with you on that. They are definitely going to fight this all the way. And it's an interesting tactic, their stall tactic, because they have such a high turnover, so they can say that vote is nullified because they don't have a majority of the same employees there. I think that's going to be an interesting way that this plays out as well. But time will tell, What do you have something to say, Jenny, before we move on?
No, I'm just, as you're listing off all the predatory things that people do to make sure that they don't have to actually follow labor codes when they have employees.
I didn't think that was predatory.
Makes my head hurt a little bit. Yeah, hell, that's predatory. Hey, I got this turnover, so I don't really got to treat you as an employee.
I mean,
you're all temporary workers.
But there's tons of companies that hire temp workers for all their stuff, just so then that way they don't have the high employee count that automatically makes them automatically unionized. I know, like here in California.
Which might mean it's a predatory practice to avoid actually treating employees as employees, right?
But is it a predatory practice if your business makes more money that way and that's the only way you can make money?
Yeah, the fuck it is.
I don't know about all that. I disagree.